All right, guys, it is that time of year when we're doing gear dumps. We're talking elk hunting, archery, backpack hunting gear today. I've got a number of tags in my pocket. I actually think I've got 3. Maybe trying to fit one more in there if the powers that be will let me go hunting for a full month of September. But basically, I got a bunch of archery elk tags in my pocket, so I'm going to do a gear dump for you today, run through my entire backpack hunting gear list for archery elk. So at the end, I'm going to start with my clothing system. I'll work all the way to the right to my bow, my arrows, and my release. But to get started, we'll start here on the end and just kind of run through some things. So, Puffy Pants. Puffy Pants, I may or may not pack. It depends on the weather. It also depends on the type of country you're hunting. If I'm hunting high country, it's not uncommon to find yourself up at 10,500, maybe even 11,000 foot if you're archery elk hunting. It can get really cold. I've had some hunts where I've had a few inches of snow. I've had single-digit temperatures. So if I'm looking at a hunt like that, I will often pack puffy pants. They're great around camp. They're great to sleep in if it gets real cold, which it has happened to me. So you got to kind of be aware even in September for archery elk. So on the end, the Western Mountaineering flight pant. It's the puffiest pant out there, super lightweight. We are working actively on our own down pants. I don't know that we'll have those available at that point, but for now, the Western Mountaineering flight pant is the pant that'll be making my pack. A down jacket. Everybody should have a down jacket in their gear list. This is the Stone Glacier Grumman. Once again, super lightweight, very packable. The thing I like about down is that it packs down into next to nothing. You can stuff that anywhere you want in your backpack. And I really like the Grumman jacket from Stone Glacier. Again, we are working on our own, which we should see in the future. I just don't know if we'll have it completely available and ready to hunt with by the time fall rolls around. So that's the Grumman down jacket from Stone Glacier. Moving over into some mid layers, I've got the Atmosphere jacket from GOHUNT. This has become one of my very favorite pieces as far as hunting equipment goes. It's a great active piece. It's got this Berber fleece on the inside. It breathes really well. It dries really quick. This will be a mid layer, and I will take that with me. Again, I will spend most of my days wearing this thing, especially early morning and evening. So check that out. That's the Atmosphere jacket from GOHUNT. Another mid layer, which I may or may not pack, depends on the weather, but this is the Stone Glacier Helio hoodie. It is a grid fleece hoodie. It's got a quarter zip in the front here. Again, it's another mid-layer piece. So most of my days I would either spend wearing the Atmosphere jacket if it's a little bit colder, or if it's a little bit milder temperatures, maybe middays in the 50s, 40s, depending on where you're at, I would probably end up wearing this most of the time over my base layer. So that's the Helio from Stone Glacier. It's a great little mid-weight hoodie that you would wear over the top of your base layer. All right, moving over to some outer layers. I have the Sitka Dew Point jacket and Dew Point pants. Those are both packable, lightweight rain jacket and pants. It's not uncommon to get thunder bumpers in the afternoons in the high country when you're hunting elk. I've had some hunts where it rained a lot, and I practically lived in these. So the Dew Point, again, packable, lightweight. They're not the most robust rain gear, but for the most part, they do the job. Probably wouldn't take those to Alaska and try to crash through the brush, but they're a great piece for high country mule deer hunting, archery elk hunting early season. So Dew Point from Sitka. Moving over to some base layers. So I do like a base layer t-shirt, just a basic tee. The one thing about archery elk hunting is it can be really hot, it can be cold, those temperatures can really swing and vary. A few years ago when I had my tag in Utah, it was middays in the 90s, and most of the time I was just walking around in a short sleeve t-shirt. So I do use a Sitka Merino short sleeve tee, super lightweight. It's a nylon merino blend, I believe, so it actually dries pretty quick. I do wear that as a base layer. Over the top of that, a lot of the times I'll end up wearing our GOHUNT Basin Merino hoodie. It's a merino, again, it's got the thumb holes, which is nice, quarter zip so you can dump some heat. This is a great piece, really comfortable, dries quick. So that is the GOHUNT Basin Merino. Moving over into underwear. You gotta have a good pair of underwear. People like merino. My choice is actually synthetic for underwear, and this is my favorite. So it's the Outdoor Research Echo Boxer Brief. Super lightweight, dries really fast. I've had no chafing issues with that. I would say if you find a good pair of underwear that you like, that you don't have any issues with chafing or whatever it might be. These do smell over time because they are synthetic. They're not treated like a merino or another synthetic that's got the silver thread kind of sewn into it. They will stink, but I expect to stink when I'm backpack elk hunting, but those are my favorite boxers and I've not had any problems with them. So that's the Echo from Outdoor Research. Hats, you gotta have some hats. So my favorite hunting hat right here I got on my head. This is the GOHUNT Stratus hat. It's kind of a runner style cap. It's got the elastic there at the back with the pull tab. You've got the perforated holes in the sides. This is my favorite hunting cap. It's my favorite running cap. Pretty much my favorite hat. So that's my go-to. Beanie, I always pack a beanie. This is the GOHUNT waffle beanie. Just a basic beanie. I do wear these a lot. If you guys have seen any of the films that we've done, a lot of times I'll wear this over just a basic ball cap and I'll end up pulling that thing kind of up and over my ears so I can listen for bugles. I don't know why, I just really like a beanie. It might be the Chuck Adams influence in my earlier days, but I do really love a beanie. So that's the GOHUNT waffle beanie. Great for sleeping in at night, keeping your head warm. Belt, so I do wear a belt because I wear a hip quiver on my hip, so I've got to have a belt. Also, it's nice to keep your pants up. So this is a basic climbing belt from Sitka. Other options, I have a Argali Kodiak, which is nice because it's got that knife sharpener built into the belt buckle. This is just the one that I grabbed this morning and I wear it quite a bit. So that's a Sitka climbing belt, just a basic webbing belt that cinches through. But I do have to have a belt because like I said, I carry my quiver on my hip. Moving over to pants. These have become my very favorite hunting pants. So this is the GOHUNT hunting pant. I don't think we even have a name for it yet. It'll probably just end up being the GOHUNT lightweight hunting pant. These are a pair of pants that we've been working on in-house for quite a while. We spent a bunch of time working on fit and function. It's my favorite pant. We should have these in early August in a couple of different color options. They won't be the two-tone. We'll have a solid gray colorway and then kind of a green colorway. We took these to New Zealand and I was really impressed with them. The wear and tear was awesome. Didn't have any issues whatsoever. I like the pocket configuration. You've got a cargo pocket on both front thighs. You also have a smaller pocket here, which is great to stick an elk call in or your release if you want. It's got the cinch strap here at the top, which is nice. It's got the ventilation vents that kind of sit on either side of both hips. It doesn't go all the way down past my knees. That was a big beef of mine. I didn't want a zipper that went clear past my knees. That was kind of causing that zipper to wear weird on my kneecaps. And it's lightweight, super lightweight, breathable, dries quick. It's got a reinforced butt. We had internal arguments about whether we should have a back pocket. I think I won out. I thought we should. But yeah, back pocket. I really like this hunting pant. I think it's going to be my go-to for a lot of years. I'm excited to get those into the gear shop and get those out to you guys to see how you like them. One of my very favorite things about this pant is just how well it fits. And we were pretty fanatical about fit. We went round and around about fit. And I think these are a great fitting pair of lightweight archery elk hunting pants. So I'm stoked about those. All right, last piece of clothing, if you will. This is a pair of gloves. This is a pair of Outdoor Research gripper sensor gloves. This is just a lightweight pair of fleece gloves. I may or may not pack them. It just really depends on what the weather looks like. If it looks like it's going to be cold, it is nice to have a pair of gloves that you can wear when you're packing your bow around in the morning. You know, you've typically got your hands out, whether you're carrying a bow in one hand and a call in the other or a trekking pole. So I do carry often a pair of gloves. I do like these. This is the Outdoor Research gripper sensor glove. Moving down into footwear. So my very favorite pair of socks has been for a really long time. I keep using them because they work. This is the Darn Tough 2012 hunting sock. It's a full cushion sock. I can put those on. I can wear them for 10 to 12 days, the same pair of socks without any issues whatsoever. Never had any problems with them binding or anything, like no foot problems, no blistering, as long as I've got a good pair of fitting boots. But that's my very favorite pair of socks, and like I said, I keep using them because I just love them. They just work great. Boots this year, I think right now the leader for the boots that I'm gonna end up wearing is the Scarpa Zodiac Tech GTX. It is a leather, like a suede upper, not too tall. They're not overly lightweight. I wouldn't call them lightweight by any means. I do think leather gives you better wear and tear. Overall, these boots are super comfortable. So I wore these to New Zealand on our tar hunt. I'd had them for about 2 weeks prior before us leaving. Didn't do a lot of break-in time. I did some hikes in them, but nothing crazy. I was a little bit concerned about how my feet were going to do, but these were awesome. They offered me the support that I needed. I would say these are probably a 4 flex on our flex scale if you're looking at boots in our gear shop. I have gone back and forth in regards to footwear for archery elk hunting. I've used the flexible trail runner type shoes, which are great for covering ground. Where I really notice the difference though in a stiff sole is when I'm climbing up and down steep hills with a full pack. A real flexible boot or shoe torches my calves. My legs just feel fatigued, they feel tired. So I feel like I need a stiffer boot to support my calves, my thighs, my legs just feel better at the end of the day, even though I don't have quite the agility that a lightweight trail runner or a hiker would offer me. So I think this is about the perfect mix for me. Moving over to my pack, this is the Kifaru Absorca bag and the Arc frame, carbon fiber frame from these guys. I've been using it now, I think, for about a full year. Packed out an elk last year in it with no issues. It was really nice. I've been getting a lot of questions recently about packs, and specifically in regards to Stone Glacier versus Kifaru. I've used both. So the Stone Glacier X Curve I used for a lot of years. I packed a lot of animals out in that bag. The Arc frame is newer to me, but I have packed some animals out in it and I have done some backpack trips in it. So my thoughts, I think the suspension, so the shoulder harness, the hip belt on the Kifaru pack, the lumbar pad, I think it's a bit more comfortable in my opinion. I do think the Stone Glacier load shelf might be a little bit easier to use. I do like the position of the load shelf on the Stone Glacier. It tends to hold that weight up your back nicely and kind of frees your hips up for walking. I really like Kifaru's bag configuration, specifically this Absorca, where you've got that beaver tail opening that kind of lays out and you can get to your stuff. You don't have to dig in through the top. Overall, I think those are both great packs. I've used both for a lot of years. I've never had any durability issues with either pack, I should say. So no issues whatsoever as far as frames breaking, tearing bags, anything like that. I think you can do either one and like it. Kind of where I'm erring is that most of my time I'm walking around with like 50 pounds in my backpack. And I think this is a more comfortable frame as I'm covering more ground. The bulk of your hunt is just backpacking for the most part, or hiking around with your pack, and I think this is a more comfortable fit for the bulk of my hunt. And like I said though, I might give a ever so slight advantage once you start using the load shelf to the Stone Glacier. But for the most part, I do really love this backpack and it'll be my choice for this year. Again, this is the Absorca. No top lid. I don't like top lids, so it'll be just the bag and the Arc frame Kifaru. Another question I get pretty commonly is what accessories would I run with my backpack? So I actually don't run, any attachment pockets really, other than maybe a water bottle pocket on my hip belt. And I do that because I don't use a water bladder, and I'll touch on that here in a second, but I do like to have a water bottle pouch on my hip belt so that I can stick a water bottle in it and I have access to water when I need it. Other than that, I don't use a top lid. I don't use any accessory pouches on it. The reason I don't is because I just end up sticking stuff in those accessory pockets for the sake of having it there, and I kind of end up spreading my gear out. For me, it makes more sense to keep it more streamlined and organize my gear in pouches inside it if I do use pouches, and I use only one, so I'll touch on that when I get to it. But I just think it's like unnecessary. It's just like added stuff strapped to the side of the pack. I think everybody probably has a junk drawer in their kitchen just full of random shit. That's what a top lid ends up for me if I use one. So that's why I don't use one. It just drops some weight and I'm able to organize my gear inside my pack with a small pouch. This does have some pockets, which is nice. It does have a front pocket here, which I can stuff my rain gear. I can stuff a headlamp. I can stuff my inReach if I need it. So there is some organization to this pack, but for the most part, I don't like sticking accessory pockets on my pack, but that's just me. Before I dive into the rest of this gear, I'll touch on hydration and a trekking pole. So I've got the Backcountry Elite, the Sissy Sticks. I don't know if they're calling them Sissy Sticks anymore, but essentially it's a trekking pole from Peaks. It's a carbon fiber trekking pole. I only pack one. I usually am hiking around with that in my right hand, carrying my bow in my left hand. The reason I hike around a lot with a trekking pole is because it gives me a third point of contact with the ground. It saves me from falling off things or tipping over. A lot of the times especially in deadfall, I might be picking my way across a big down log from log to log. It's kind of hard to do with a backpack on if you're carrying your bow in one hand. If you got a trekking pole in the other hand, it's actually pretty easy because you can use that third point of contact to like reach out and shove off of trees or other logs. And I also pitch a tarp with this trekking pole if I need to, if the weather looks like it's going to be bad. So I use that to pitch the tarp in kind of a closed off A-frame fashion. So I do pack one trekking pole, usually carrying around in my right hand. There is one annoyance about walking around with a trekking pole in your right hand, and it's that when you get a bull going, you're kind of working him and you're bugling or calling and he's kind of coming in. I have been known to like stick that thing in the ground and walk off and leave it. So I've left a couple of these. I left one in New Mexico. I left one in Kodiak Island. Couldn't find it again, but I guess that's just what happens sometimes. But I do carry one trekking pole. Moving over to hydration. So I already mentioned I don't carry a water bladder. I think a water bladder is the best way to stay hydrated when you're out backpack hunting. But in my opinion, I've had issues with water bladders. Most notably, I pulled up to a trailhead in Colorado one year. Went to get all my backpack out and my gear was completely drenched all the way down through my sleeping bag, and an entire 3-liter bladder had emptied, had a leak in it, and had gone down through my backpack. Ever since then, I've just gone away from water bladders. I just don't want any kind of issues associated with those, and I'm leaking or breaking. If you do get a leak in one of them, you're kind of SOL for the whole hunt. So I have gone to just using a plastic water bottle. So these are the Nalgene Light GOHUNT Edition water bottles. I'll pack 1 or 2 of those depending on where I'm at. If it's kind of arid, I'll probably pack 2 just so that I've got water all the time. If I've got water accessible, readily accessible, I may only pack 1, and then this soft bottle from Platypus. So this little soft bottle, the reason I pack it is because it stores in next to nothing. It's really lightweight. What I typically do is I hit a water source, I'll fill up my water bottles for drinking water, and I will fill this guy up for camp water, so cooking at night to reheat my freeze-dried milk. So that's that little soft bottle that I carry, and it's a 1-liter option from Platypus. All right, going along with my hydration system, I do treat my water out here in the West. So what I use is these Aquamira Part A, Part B drops, treatment drops. So it's typically 7 drops per solution, A and B, per liter of water. All you do is you mix those 2 together, you let them sit for 5 minutes, and then you dump it into your water. And I think you gotta wait about 15 minutes. So it's not ideal in terms of speed or efficiency, but these are relatively lightweight and foolproof. They do kill everything in it, so I'm not going to get any diseases, no bacteria, Giardia, anything like that. So this is what I've been using, and it's worked great for me. I don't like packing water filters because while they will remove some bacteria, I don't know that they're completely foolproof. And the other thing is they're kind of a pain in the butt sometimes. Sometimes they clog up and it feels like you're constantly cleaning them. If I was hunting a really arid area and I was maybe sucking water out of a cattle pond or something like that, I could see using a filter in conjunction with some drops. But for the most part, in elk country that I'm hunting, I've got good running water. It's relatively clear, so I'm able to just use the Aquamira drops to treat my water, and I know I'm not going to get sick, and it's pretty lightweight and foolproof. So check those out, Aquamira Part A, Part B, water treatment drops. All right, we'll move into my sleep system. So first, I will grab this guy. This is the Thermarest Neo Air X Lite. I've had this for a lot of years. This has been my very favorite sleeping pad. You got to be a little bit tender with it. You have to make sure that you don't throw this thing down on, a pile of rocks or sticks where it's going to get holes in it, because you can pop this thing, and if you pop it, you're not going to have a great hunt because you're not going to sleep well. But I do think it's the best sleeping pad for the money. It's got a good R value, good insulation value. It's comfortable. If there is any complaint about it that I get, it's that it's a little bit noisy. You can kind of hear that. I don't personally notice it. I think it's the best pad on the market. So check that out, Thermarest Neo Air X Lite. Bivy, this is the Rab Alpine Bivy. So this is just a basic waterproof sack. The waterproof layer is E-vent. There's no hoops involved with it. It just has a zipper across the top. It's really lightweight, super basic. The reason I like a bivy for archery elk hunting is because I like a mobile style of hunting. I put everything in my backpack. I head out every morning. I pack my full pack all day long, hunt with everything on my back. And I like to do that because I feel like I can move with the elk. So I feel like I'm constantly in the game. And I think in order to be successful in archery elk hunting, you have to have elk in close proximity to you as often as you possibly can. In essence, you have to get reps. A lot of nights, if the weather's good, it doesn't look like it's gonna rain, I will just throw out my bivy on top of my sleeping pad, put my bag inside it, and that's it. I just go to bed. It's super quick, in and out of camp every morning. So that's the Rab Alpine Bivy. That one's been kind of my favorite as of the last few years, I would say. I've got a few of them, but that's the one that's the lightest. I think it's the most breathable and waterproof, and it just works well. I do always pack a pillow. So this is the Sea to Summit Aeros Ultralight pillow. I think it's about 1.5 ounces. I know that guys like to take a down puffy or pair down pants, stuff it in a stuff sack and sleep on it. Personally, I just found that I sleep better with this little pillow that I pack. So I do pack it. Like I said, it weighs 1.5 ounces. So check that out. We have them in the gear shop. Sleeping bag. Sleeping bags. I've got a bunch of sleeping bags at home, which is great because I got some young kids that like to go camping. So we do that from time to time. And for a lot of years, I've been using the Western Mountaineering Versalite, which is a 10-degree sleeping bag, and I love that sleeping bag. Last year I had the opportunity to use this Archery Alpine sleeping bag, and I really liked it. So this is the 20-degree version. It's got the side zip, it's really lofty. It does have a built-in pillow attachment if you want to buy the pillow and use it in conjunction with this. Theirs is down stuffed, and you can add your down puffy to that to get it larger. I just use the regular Sea to Summit pillow, which I already talked about, but this sleeping bag has been really impressive to me. It's really comfy, it's cut well. I don't feel like I'm confined. I feel like I got enough room, but it's not overly roomy so that I'm losing body heat or I feel like I'm swimming around in the thing. I've been really impressed with it, and I love this bag. So this will be the bag that I'm using this year. Still got some sticks in it. Check it out, Archery Alpine sleeping bag. I think he's got a couple of different options in terms of temperature rating. I think they have a 0-degree and a 20-degree. I forgot to mention, but you need a good stuff sack for your sleeping bag. So this is the GOHUNT stuff sack or compression sack. It's got the lid that goes over the top of it with the pull tabs that you can suck that thing down. The reason you need a nice compression sack for your sleeping bag is that space is of a premium when you're backpack elk hunting. So you want to be able to tighten that thing down and get that sleeping bag stuffed into as small as package as you can. So you can buy those in the gear shop. That's our GOHUNT compression sack. All right, a couple more items for my sleep system. This is the GOHUNT Tyvek sheet. So you can buy these, and when you buy them, they're actually a lot wider. What I typically do is fold them over, cut them in half, so I've got two smaller sections. This one's just wide enough for me to lay my sleeping pad on or my bivvy. A lot of nights I won't use it. If the ground is really rocky or there's a lot of sticks or thorns, I might throw this down as a piece of added protection. The thing I do like about having this little Tyvek sheet is that when you kill a bull, it's great to throw it on the ground, lay the quarters on, and start that deboning process to pack it out. It just protects the meat, keeps it cleaner. So I would say pick up one of these regardless. They're great for a ground cloth for your sleeping bag, you know, your pad, or they're great to debone an animal. If you just need to make sure that you keep your meat clean, they're great for that. And like I said, when you buy one of these, they're relatively cheap, and you cut them in half. Essentially, you get two for the price of one. So that's the Tyvek sheet from GOHUNT. Last piece of sleeping equipment or tent. I don't pack a tent, I pack a tarp. So this is the GOHUNT Dyneema tarp. The reason I pack a tarp versus a one-man or a two-man tent is because I don't often actually even set my tarp up. The only time I set my tarp up is if it looks like it's going to rain and I need that weather protection from the storm. I might set this up if I'm just sitting midday and I'm riding out a storm. It just gives me that versatility to either set it up or not set it up. The reason I often don't is because I want to be in bed quick. I want to get a full night's sleep. I also want to very quickly get my bag fully packed and loaded in the morning and headed in the direction of bugling elk. So this stays in my pack for the most part, but when I do need it, it's really handy. So that's the GOHUNT Dyneema tarp. Really lightweight, great little tarp, and I think probably everybody should have some sort of tarp in their backpack. If you're day hunting, it's great for shade, it's great for rain. And then, like I said, if you want to do the style of hunting that I do, I think it makes a great shelter. You can pitch that in a closed A-frame, which is perfect for just putting you and your equipment in and out of the elements. So you can buy those in the gear shop. We worked on those for quite a while, so I'm proud of that piece of equipment, and I've really liked it over the last couple of years. All right, let's move into gear, kind of the rest of the loose gear that goes in my pack. So I'm gonna grab this first. This is just a GOHUNT pouch. Some people call it a possibles pouch, if you will. Basically, I'm gonna put all this gear inside this pouch, and it just kind of helps me stay organized. Where everything's located in one little spot, I can just filter through it, grab what I need, and go. Those are available in the gear shop. It's just a little Possibles pouch. Again, we have them in different colors. I think we got them in forest green, orange. I even think we have some Tyvek ones that are white. I like the orange because I'm less likely to lose that. All right, so in my Possibles pouch, I've got some stakes. So tent stakes or tarp stakes. When I want to stake my tarp out, you need some of those. So I think I've got 8 of those. These are just these little needle stakes that we make here and sell at GOHUNT. This is our GOHUNT version of these needle stakes. Really lightweight, low maintenance. You'll bend them from time to time, I will say, so you want to be careful of that, but they are relatively cheap and they work great and they're really lightweight. So those will go in my pouch. All right, moving over to battery packs. So this little battery pack is a 10,000 amp, I think. This will charge my phone twice. I did have and buy a couple of Nightcore battery packs, which I would highly suggest. I only got a chance to use them a few times at home before I went to New Zealand. Those both got confiscated out of my check bag, so be aware of that if you're flying. You want to put those in your carry-on and go through regular screening at TSA. But these, I need to replace those, and they're great. They're super lightweight. I think they're 5.6 ounces per unit. But essentially, I can get maybe 2 charges, 3 charges out of one of these, so I'll often pack 2 of those. And the reason I do that is to power things like my headlamp or my Garmin InReach, which I will touch on. So headlamp, I use the Peaks Backcountry Duo headlamp. It's been my favorite headlamp over the last few years since they launched those. One of the reasons is it's rechargeable, I really like, and then I really like the red light feature. They have the brightest red light of any of the headlamps I've used. You also get really good battery life out of this Backcountry Duo headlamp from Peaks. So that's been my primary headlamp that I've used. It's a little bit heavier than some of the other options that you might find from a Black Diamond, but I do think it's the best headlamp out there. So you can check that out in the gear shop as well. Backup headlamp, I always pack a small, super lightweight backup headlamp just in case my main headlamp bites the dust or I have an issue. So this is a Petzl E-Light headlamp. It's a tiny little thing, weighs next to nothing. And again, that just goes in my Possibles pouch as a backup in case I ever needed it. All right, so Allen wrench, it depends on how far I'm gonna go into the backcountry on whether I'm gonna pack this thing or not. So if I'm going a long ways back in, I might pack it with me just because if I have an issue with my bow, I don't want to come all the way out and try to fix it. It really just kind of depends on the country, but for the most part, I'll always have one of these and usually 2 or 3 of them in my car just in case I had an issue with a rest or a back bar, something like that. And I may or may not pack it. It just depends on where I'm going and how far I'm going. And if I'm trying to save weight is a premium in my backpack. Other gear that I take with me for my bow, so I do take a hunk of D-loop cord. If I had an issue with my D-loop, I could replace that. So this is BCY number 23. Number 23 is the best D-loop. Most of you are probably using 24, but I would suggest 23 because I think it's a superior product. InReach, so Garmin InReach, this is the old version, the SE. I've had this one for a lot of years. I should probably replace it, and I think I say that every single year when I do one of these videos, but it works, and battery life is really good on it, so I'm still using it. Maybe at some point I'll update that thing because they do have smaller, lighter versions. I think now they even have a version that you can send photos, so maybe when it gets to that point, I'll look at updating my InReach, but for now, I'll just keep using that one. Saw. So I always pack a lightweight packable saw. This is the Outdoor Edge Grizz saw. You can see there's not a lot to it. It's just a blade and a small handle. The reason I pack that is primarily for 2 reasons. One is for cutting branches. So if I need to cut a branch to, help pitch my tarp, or if I'm going to sit a wallow and I need to cut a shooting lane to that wallow, I will use this little Grizz saw and have done quite a bit for that purpose. The other reason I pack this is for skull capping an animal. I like skull capping bulls because I don't like packing the extra weight. I know I get some flack over that because I don't do a lot of Euros. I just basically skull cap those things and strap them to the backpack and head out. And this little tool allows me to do that, allows me to save a bunch of weight. So that's the Grizz saw from Outdoor Research. Other gear, so I always carry a Sharpie. I carry that for signing tags. I carry it for leaving notes if I had to. Around the handle of it, I always wrap a good hunk of Leukotape. Leukotape actually might be the most important piece of equipment in your entire kit. If you get some blisters, you get some cuts that you can't get a Band-Aid to hold on to, Leukotape will stick to just about anything and it stays for days and days. I would say primarily I take that for feet problems. So if I got a blister that pops up on a heel or a pinky toe, which is pretty rare, but it has happened, you can cover those with that Leukotape and at least provide a barrier of protection from your boot or whatever it is that's rubbing your foot. So Leukotape is a must. Cords, so this is the cordage we sell here at GOHUNT. It comes in a little roll just like that. I think it's about 13 bucks. I always pack some cordage, whether I'm pitching my tarp and need it, or primarily for hanging game bags. So once I've killed an animal and I'm starting to shuttle that meat out, it is nice if you can to get your game bags up in a tree, hanging on a north-facing slope where it's cool. It's gonna have shade on it. And I like to get it off the ground just to keep it off, keep it cool for one, and then also try to keep bears or any other animals that might get into it. So I always pack some cordage. Again, you can find that in the gear shop. That's our own cordage that we sell, GOHUNT branded. Moving over to fire starting kit, I always carry some pyro putty, just a hunk of that. I don't use it that often, but in an emergency situation, it is nice to have. I could probably count on one hand the number of times over the last 25 years that I've actually started a fire on an archery elk hunt. I do try to keep a low profile, and I don't often have to start a fire, but just in case in a survival situation, I do always pack some pyro putty. Super easy to get a fire started with that stuff. I always pack a couple of lighters, so 2 Bic lighters that you can pick up at your local gas station. Waterproof matches, so I'll usually pack 5 or 6 waterproof matches. Again, that's just as a fail-safe for my lighters in case something was to happen. One thing you might want to look into is if you buy these little waterproof matches, in a lot of cases you need something to actually strike it on. If you buy these at like your local sporting goods store, they usually have a little round piece that sits on the top of the bottle that they come in. I usually peel that little piece off and stick it on my Sharpie or just stick it in my Possibles pouch so that I'm not searching for a way to actually get that thing to strike and light. Medical kit over here. So in my medical kit, I've got a toothbrush. So this is just your little travel size toothbrush that you can buy at your local Walmart. It just fits inside the handle. I used to buy the toothbrush and cut the handle off, all that jazz. I kind of been down that road before. But now I just buy these little travel toothbrush kits. It usually comes with a small tube of toothpaste together. I used to get really crazy and I would squeeze out toothpaste on, a piece of parchment paper in little drops, and I'd dry those out and I would fold those over in wax paper and I'd fold them and put them into my little Possibles pouch to try to save some weight. At this stage, convenience. I'm just getting lazy, I guess, so I do just pack a small size of toothpaste and a small toothbrush. My medical kit probably needs to be beefed up a little bit. I did use some stuff recently, but I've got some bandages. So I've got some gauze bandages. I have some large waterproof Band-Aids, some small medium-sized ones, and then some more gauze pads. I do carry some cold medicine. If you get a cold, a bit of the sniffles, it's nice to have some of that cold medicine in your pack. I've got a butterfly bandage, probably got 4 or 5 of those located in this little mess. I also have a small suture kit, which I've had for quite a few years. I've never had to use it, thank heavens, but if I did, at least I've got the option. Waterproofing tabs. So these little aqua tabs, these are just little iodine tabs, essentially, that you can put in your water to treat it. Again, this is just a backup. If I was to leave my water treatment drops somewhere and forget those or lose them, I do still have a backup, and that's these little water tabs that I've got there. And then probably the thing that I use the most in my med kit is just vitamin I. So ibuprofen, Advil, Tylenol. I've got some nighttime. If I'm having some trouble sleeping, I might take one of these little Tylenol PMs just to help get me to sleep. I also pack some Imodium AD in case you got some stomach bug issues going on, just to help that. If there wasn't another thing that I should add to my medical kit, it's probably a tourniquet. I think every year I do these same gear dump videos and I probably say I need to add a tourniquet, but for whatever reason, I just haven't. I do think I should add a tourniquet. For the record, if you're listening, I think you should have a tourniquet in your backpack. All right, a few more items. Wet wipes. So wet wipes in a plastic bag. Those are just your basic dude wipes that you can get at Walmart. Try to plan them out depending on how frequent or regular you are. You may need more than other people. I actually don't need that many, which is kind of nice. So I've kind of learned over the years approximately how many I need, and I don't try to pack anymore. I prefer wet wipes over toilet paper, even though Brady says toilet paper is the way to go. I think he's dead wrong. I do carry some small patches, and these are for my air mattress. So these are just like little adhesive patches. They work okay. I will say recently Omar's pad in New Zealand got a hole in it, and we weren't actually able to get the hole completely sealed off with just a patch. So one piece of gear that I would suggest you add, and I'll probably add, is just a very small silicone tube, which is just that little silicone gel that you can layer over the patch all around the edges and really seal that thing off to make sure that it'll hold air. One of the guys in camp had one of those. We were able to use it on Omar's mattress, and I think we got it pretty well taken care of. He was sleeping a whole lot better those subsequent nights after we got that whole patch. So a little tube of silicone gel is a great thing to have. And then last little item, little flossers. I never would have packed these or thought about packing those, but every once in a while I'll get something in the back of my teeth, and if I can't get it out, it'll give me a headache. So I've started packing some of those little floss picks. So those are great to have. Another piece of gear, I've got a spork. This is our GOHUNT spork, titanium spork. I maybe will move over here a little bit and just include that with my camp kitchen. There's not a lot to my camp kitchen. This is the GOHUNT titanium mug. This is a Soto Wind Master stove and just a regular bottle of fuel. I usually only pack the 3.9 ounce bottle of fuel. I can normally get 8 to 9 days if I'm only boiling water one time a day for my meals. If you're somebody that likes to drink coffee in the morning, or you're boiling water for lunches, you may need 2 of these, but typically I only pack 1 for like an 8-day hunt. I will say, shout out to my buddy Neville, Chris Neville. Neville has a new stove in the works, which he's calling the Rough Ridge stove. I don't know that he will have those available for the fall. I've played with a prototype. It's really nice. The only reason I'm not highlighting it now is because I don't know that he will have those for sale in the fall. It's a really well thought out little stove system. So look for that in the future, Rough Ridge stoves. But for now, I've just got that Soto Windmaster. Charging cables. So I've got a couple of charging cables. One just goes from my battery pack to my phone. The other goes from my battery pack to my inReach. And those are the 2 items that I'm concerned about maintaining a charge on. All right, knives. This is all I pack for knives. I do pack 2 knives. I pack a fixed blade knife. So that's that little carbon tur, I believe they call it, from Goat Knives. And then the Capra from Goat, which is a replaceable blade knife. It does have these Allen keys that sit within the handle of it. So if I wanted to, I could pair those with the accessories on my bow that were most likely to fail, like a rest, and I could use the handle of this and one of those bits to fix it if I needed to. But I always pack a replaceable blade knife because when you're actually caping a bull, like you're starting that main cut up its back and you're starting to peel off the hide, super thick, so it's nice to have a really sharp scalpel blade. These are the Havalon 60 XT blades. There's some different versions of these going around. I think we have a variety of them in the gear shop, but I really like replaceable blades for cutting hide. Once I actually get into skinning, or if I'm gonna cut a joint like on the front hock or the back hock, I like a fixed blade knife because it's just got more durability to it. It's got a little more bite to it. I really like these Goat knives. They hold an edge really well. So that's all I carry for knives. The Capra Hunter from Goat, and then this little carbon tur, and then for elk, I usually take 6 of these little replaceable Havalon blades. Move those aside. All right, moving down to the rest of my kill kit. So game bags. These are our GOHUNT game bags. I'll pack 4 of them. Usually what I'll do is I'll pack 2 elk ones and 2 deer ones. And it gives me the versatility to bone out meat, or if I was to kill a bull closer to a road, I could fit a hind quarter or front quarter in the bigger ones. I just pack 4 because I can fit everything I need in it, whether that's boned out all the meat in 3 bags and then a cape in 1. But 4 is kind of the standard for me, and I really like these GOHUNT game bags based on the fact that it's one continuous seam through the bottom like a baseball, so there's no seam to tear. It also has these handles, which is great if you're hunting with a partner. He can actually hold those game bags out while you're loading meat in them. The other thing that's nice is that if you want to hang those from a tree branch, you can do that. So 4 GOHUNT game bags going in my pack. Moving over to calls. So calls, elk hunting, that's everything. So I do pack a external bite and blow call. This is the Easy Estrus from Phelps. This is my go-to. I usually pack 1 or 2 of these. If I don't have 2 with me when I'm hiking and hunting, I'll always have a backup in my truck in case I drop it and lose it. These are my very favorite. So if you're somebody that kind of struggles with using a diaphragm mouth call, I can't really produce, and it's probably because I don't practice enough, really consistent cow elk sounds with that diaphragm call. I actually use this thing more than any other call. I've called a lot of bulls in over the years with this little Easy Estrus. I just hang it around my neck. If there is a downfall to it, it is that you have to pick that thing up and put it to your mouth and bite and blow. It can get in the way a little bit, but I think it sounds really nice, and I'm able to consistently produce really nice cow elk sounds with that little call. So that's my staple, my go-to. For a bugle, this is the Phelps metal bugle tube. It weighs a little bit more than some of your traditional plastic bugle tubes, but I do like the pitch. It gives you a nice, loud, high-pitched bugle. So the last couple of years I've been using this little metal bugle tube and I've really liked it. I think it's been great, and I think I've called in some bulls that I probably wouldn't have otherwise, just because it's loud and it's sharp. It really produces that scream really well. So I love that little bugle tube. All right, so this little call pouch is great. Goes on the shoulder strap of my backpack. These are made by us here at GOHUNT. You can buy them in the gear shop. Inside here, I've got 4 diaphragm calls, and they're all the same. Hands down, my very favorite diaphragm call for bugling, making some cow calls, is the Dirk Durham edition, the Maverick. So that Phelps Maverick red call is my personal favorite. Everybody's palate's a little bit different, the shape of it, their tongue, the way that they call with a diaphragm call. I've tried a bunch of them over the years, probably 50. This one hands down is my favorite. So shout out to Dirk for making the Maverick. And I just load up my little call pouch with 4 of those. So hopefully that gets me through the season this year. You do have to kind of keep these dry and try to take care of them as well as you possibly can. Don't leave them out in the sun. I wouldn't leave them in your truck when it's super hot like it is here in Vegas. But as long as you take care of those, I would say you could probably get a year, maybe 2 years out of these things. So Dirk Phelps, shout out. That's my very favorite call. Moving over to optics. So rangefinder, really important. Everybody, if you're archery elk hunting, if you're archery hunting in general, you should have a good rangefinder. I think it's probably one of the biggest advancements that we've had in bow hunting. I think it makes us more ethical, more lethal. This one right here that I'm using is the SIG 8K. It does have the archery mode, which you can input your speed rating of your bow in foot per second, and it's going to give you a calculated range for your angle compensation. So if you're shooting uphill, you're shooting down, it's going to help you with a compensated angle range to know what to aim for. So that little 8K from SIG is awesome. Inside the Bino harness, I've got a pair of SIG Zulu 6 binos in a 12x42. A common question I've gotten lately is, should I buy the 16? Should I buy the 10? Should I buy the 12s? What's the best fit? My opinion, again personal, is the 12x42 is the best option. I think you have enough magnification that you can sit down and really glass and cover country. It's not overpowering in closer situations because it's not that 16. That 16 power, in my opinion, can be like a little bit too much for archery elk hunting when you might be hunting the timber. The reason I don't necessarily love the 10s is that the objective lens are smaller, so I don't think they're as bright. I think this is the best mix of magnification and brightness. So if you're an archery elk hunter or just a Western hunter in general, my opinion would be the 12x42. Inside my Bino harness right there, I always carry in this little pouch a wind checker, bottle of wind checker. I've been marrying bottles of wind checker together, so you can kind of see that one is super full. I never want to run out of this stuff. Again, going along with Leuco tape, this might be the most important for an archery elk hunter. I'm constantly checking the wind. Wind is everything when you're elk hunting. You've probably heard the saying, you can get away with a little bit of noise, you can get away with them maybe seeing you. Elk are a big animal. You cannot get away with an elk winding you. If they wind you, the gig is up. So constantly monitoring the wind and checking on it, and then planning your route accordingly is paramount. So you always gotta have some wind checker. Bino harness is the enclosed bino harness, some marsupial gear. Jim over there makes a great product, very well thought out. You got to have the front opening pouch, especially when you're bow hunting. You want to be able to keep that thing open. You want to be able to get to your binos with one hand and replace those very quickly and quietly. I think he's done an awesome job. It's really cool that those are made in the States, and Jim's a good dude. So check those out, marsupial enclosed bino harness. And then finally, weapon. What's actually going to do the job, right? So arrows. You can see right here on my bow, the arrows I'm going to be shooting are these UltraView 1K arrows and a 300 spine. They make a great arrow, really straight, super consistent. I love the fact that when you buy these, you get the insert, which is a 75 grain stainless steel insert. The tolerances are tight, they're straight. I like the vanes, I like the knock set on these things. Overall, it's just a good arrow. Full finished arrow weight for me on these with a 100 grain head is about 470 grains, which I think is a great weight for archery elk hunting. I've been getting a bunch of questions lately, what grain arrow should I be shooting? It's not like there's a formula for everybody, but typically I would tell you, try to shoot between maybe a 440 to 500 grain arrow. If you can get that thing flying anywhere from 270 to 295 feet per second, you're gonna be able to tune most broadheads, and you're gonna get enough energy to actually penetrate an elk really well and kill it. So that would be my advice. These arrows fit obviously right within that parameter. Broadheads, you can kind of see there on the end. The broadhead I'm shooting this year for elk hunting, also hunted with it last year, is the Sever 1.5 hybrid. So this is a hybrid broadhead. It's a mechanical. You've got the two blades that slip back in the ferrule as these two little bands are opened up. And then also you've got these two bleeder blades that are fixed. These broadheads fly really well, titanium, so they're durable. Tolerances are tight. I find that they spin really true when I get a nice straight arrow. So I've loved these. I get asked about penetration. I actually answered a few questions on my way down here to Vegas today about penetration. I really haven't had that many issues with penetration. Any issues that I have had have been my own fault, where I've not made a perfect shot. But if you hit an animal well in the vital area with this broadhead and you're pushing enough energy and the arrow weighs, you know, a good weight in that parameter, maybe 440 to 500 grain arrows, and you've got the energy, you're not going to have any issue with penetration. The reason I like a mechanical broadhead, even for archery elk hunting, is because I think they're more accurate. I think they're more forgiving. I think that when you're elk hunting and your form isn't exactly perfect, it offers me a little bit of leniency, so I prefer mechanical. Quiver, so I've got a tight spot 5 arrow quiver. I've got my rest of my arrows in there. And then, like I said, I use a hip quiver. So this is a Total Peep hip quiver attachment. I just feed my belt through that. And then I've got the little dovetail receiver right here mounted on it, so I can open that up and I can pull that quiver off when I want to. I like a quiver on my hip versus my bow because I like the way the bow holds and balances without that quiver. Less wind, drag, if you will, going through the veins as you're trying to shoot. So that's my choice, and I like it, and I think it reloads really quick as well. Stabilizers on the bow. These are the Matthews Bridgelock stabilizers. This is a 15-inch front bar with 3 ounces. I've got a 12-inch back bar with 8 ounces. That seems to be about the right balance for me. Again, you can kind of play with it and find your own fit. I have the Matthews Shrewd back bar bracket mounted on the back of the bow on the lower hole. For the rest, I'm shooting the QAD MX2. This is the integrated rest. It's a cable-driven rest, kind of fits right here within the cord of my down cable. I haven't had any issues with that. Sight, I'm shooting the UltraView slider sight. If I was to pan this around and show you, the current model that I've got on this is a 3-pin on a vertical post. I will be changing this out for a 5-pin horizontal option. I think it's really important when I'm elk hunting to have 5 pins. I'm pretty bullish about that. I just want multiple aiming reference points, because those elk, when they come in and they're moving, they can really move through different shooting lanes before I actually get a shot, and I don't want to have to think about moving my sight. I also don't want to have to try to estimate If I have a shot that's 53 yards, and let's say I had a 3-pin and I had 2 pins set at 40 and 60, I don't want to necessarily have to estimate what 53 is. That gap between my 50 and my 60 is a lot tighter on this side than a 40 and a 60 would be on a 3-pin. So that's why I like a 5-pin. Strings, so these are custom strings made by a guy in Idaho. His name's Jesse Smith, Apex Custom Strings. He makes a great set of strings, so I would check those out. Available, you can buy those on his website. And then lastly, the bow. So the Matthews Lift X33. They make a couple of different versions, one shorter than this. I like the 33-inch option. I think it's a little bit more stable. I also have a 30-inch draw shooting 70 pounds. I think the longer axle to axle gives me a better string angle for a longer draw. I've always preferred longer draw bows. 33 is kind of the bottom end of what I would prefer. I even like a 34 or 35. I know that in years past they made the Halon X, which was one of my very favorite bows at 35 inches axle to axle. But I really like this bow. It's been hands down one of my very favorite bows, both last year's Lift and then this Lift X with this added technology of limb shift. So check those out. Matthews makes a great bow. Then lastly, my release. So the release I've been shooting most often is this True Ball Executive. It's a hinge release. I like hinges for hunting because I think it slows my process down, helps me go through the entire thing without the temptation of punching a trigger like I might get on a index finger or a thumb button. I am playing with some new releases, from different companies. Stan, I'm kind of a release junkie. I've got a lot of different releases that I'm playing with. So this may or may not be the one that ultimately goes into the field with me, but I do like this little release from True Ball. So that's the True Ball Executive. And that is pretty much my gear list minus my food. I'm gonna do a separate video where I run through a day's worth of food. We're also gonna talk a little bit about how I pack my backpack. I think people see all this gear laid out on the table and they wonder how in the world do you actually fit all that into your backpack for a hunt. So we'll do a video on that. But that's my gear list for the year. I need to kind of get organized, obviously. The elk hunt is actually pretty quickly approaching. You start in early August in Utah if you've got an over-the-counter tag, and then Idaho, which I've got an Idaho tag, starts the 30th of August. So I'm pretty much there. I mean, it's going to be on me before I know it. Hopefully this helped you out. If you got some holes in your kit, hopefully this gave you some ideas. If I have anything here that I talked about that you have questions about, drop me a comment or shoot me a DM. I'd be happy to answer that. And again, pretty much everything that you saw me use today is available in our GOHUNT gear shop. We try to curate and carry gear that we believe in and that we trust and that we use in the field. So almost everything that I showed you today, you can buy in the GOHUNT gear shop. So you can find links for that below. So with that, let's go elk hunting.